Hello, let's try and clean this code up. So this code, what it's doing right now is we have a list of point objects. We are going to loop 101 times and create some point objects with random xy coordinates and add them to a list. And then if it's the last loop, then we'll take whatever point that was and make it the target. And then we'll try and see, is the point's distance to the target less than or equal to 50? So is it close to the target? And if it is, we'll print it out. The problem here is that we're going to try and run this line of code starting from the very first point we create, but we don't actually assign the target until we've created 100 points. And that's what was causing the null pointer exception in the last video. So let's step back. If the goal here is to create 100 point objects and then take the last point and display all of the other points that are close to it, we just have to have a second loop because there's no way to go back in time in this one loop. It's a little bit weird to do things like this, to have if statements that test if your loop counter is a certain value, especially if it's the last value. Here's what you do instead. If you want to do something with the last value in the loop, all you do is you end the loop. So here I am looping 101 times, I create points, and I put all the points in the list. Now I don't need to test if I is 100 because I already know that I'm at the end of the loop. So now I'll just say target equals point list. I'm just going to get the last element out of the list. So point list.get and then point list.size -1. Because remember, point list.size is how many things are in the list. When I subtract 1, that's the location of the last element of the list. That's the index of the last element. So I'm saying give me the last points in the list. Or if you wanted to, you could make, probably this would be better. Let's just loop 100 times, and then let's create a completely new point that will be the target. The reason this is better is because we don't want to check if the target is close to itself. And if the target comes from the list of points, we'll eventually check the target against itself. And that's weird to say is a point close to itself. So now I'm generating 100 points. I generate a random target, and now I need a completely new for loop. So I'll loop over the points list. And now I can do this test to see if it's close to the target. And if it is, we'll print the target. And let's not print the points list. Oh, we didn't get it. Sorry. So point p equals point list dot get I. All right, let's go ahead and run it. All right, great. So it's printing a bunch of points. You might be wondering how come it's not showing me the XY coordinates of the points. And that's because we haven't actually made a toString method for our point object. So let's do that. Here I am inside point. I would definitely recommend going back and watching my video or reading my notes about toString. But toString is a special built-in method that we're going to override the behavior of. So it returns a string. It's called toString, like this with a capital S. It takes no parameters. And whatever we return, that's what this object will display as when you put it inside a print statement. So right now, every single point will just display as this is a point. And when I run it, you'll see that. Yep, so just like a lot of points. What's probably more helpful is to display the XY coordinates that are unique to this particular instance. Okay, so this is probably not the nicest display, but it will at least show the idea. And so like I said, in this video, my purpose isn't to explain in detail how toString works. Go back and check the other video for that. But now you can see we've got all of these points being displayed. Let's see, was there anything else I wanted to say? I guess the other thing I wanted to say was, if we were going to write this as pseudocode, each line of pseudocode, like each of these little code blocks, a code block is just the code between the opening brace and the closing brace. Each code block is doing one thing. So this creates 100 points and puts them in the list. This creates the target point. And then here we check all points against the target. So it's like very structured in that we are doing one thing at a time. The old code was trying to do a bunch of stuff inside the original for loop, and that's what led to the problems. Well, I hope this talk has been useful for you. Thank you for your efforts.